regardless of what his cucks say for the press, and regardless of what his mindless zombie horde cultists want to claim in social media, Donald Trump got his ass handed to him in Monday's debate, and he knows it. He's he's come as close to admitting it as he ever will. And now his handlers, his advisors are trying again to get him to actually prepare for round two. But then isn't that what they did in the run-up to round one? Milady Susan Wright, Red State, still on the Never Trump beat at that hallowed website. So maybe it's time to try something new before the second debate. Trump? That seems to be where Trump's advisors are futilely going, considering Monday night's first presidential debate against Hillary Clinton was pretty much horrid and revealed Trump to be so far out of his element and over his head on a debate stage, something most of us gathered from the primaries. It's just the media downplayed it then, and now they're playing it up. That drastic preparations are needed before he tries it again. Anybody who believes he'll actually do his homework this time, stand on your head. The new line of preparations will allegedly include teaching him to go after Hillary Clinton's vulnerabilities. I spent an hour yesterday in yesterday's video going over and over and over that time after time after time. The very things that he hammers at his rallies, he didn't even touch on in the debate. Unbelievable, Trumplicans. You think your guy won? He didn't. Trump had several opportunities to hammer away at Mrs. Clinton's vulnerabilities in the first debate, and other than a passing acknowledgement, if that much, he let it all slide. There will also be an effort a futile effort, to fill him in with pertinent facts and figures on issues facing the nation today. But that would require him to actually pick up documents and read them, do his homework. And Donald Trump is arguably the most singularly lazy human being on the planet. It'll sort of be like prepping him for an appearance on Jeopardy. I imagine that's how they'll frame it. Reality TV and game shows have much in common, so maybe that's something in his particular intellectual wheelhouse that he can actually grasp, should he muster the work ethic to do so, which is not bloody likely. Given that his advisors utterly failed in their attempts to prepare him for the first debate, I would say drastic measures are now warranted. If reports are true, however, the blame cannot be laid fully in their laps because they tried, just like they'll be trying this time. For starters, the candidate bears a significant amount of responsibility for making sure he's prepared before going out on that stage. And Donald Trump, with his ego, I'm sure just like throughout the primaries, he thought, I can just go out there and wing it. He prefers winging it, folks. And now you see what happens when he wings it when the media is not on his side. According to a piece in the New York Times today, the internal back and forth on what happened Monday night and what needs to happen going forward is in a frenzy, which is what tends to happen when there's blood in the water. Here's the quote. Even as Trump's advisors publicly backed him on Tuesday and praised his debate performance and cuck, they were privately awash in second-guessing about why he stopped attacking Mrs. Clinton on trade and character issues Maybe it's because he doesn't really disagree with Mrs. Clinton on much. Maybe it's because he's actually trying to get Mrs. Clinton elected. A Herculean task, but one that he's managing to pull off. Impatient, and instead grew erratic, impatient, and subdued as the night went on. In interviews, no fewer than 7 campaign aides and advisors, most of whom sought anonymity to speak candidly, expressed frustration and discouragement over their candidate's performance Monday night. In other words, they were actually surprised. They were actually surprised. They blamed his overstuffed schedule, including a last-minute rally in Virginia that was added days before the debate. Well, yeah, but who approves the schedule? Isn't it the candidate? They blamed the large number of voluble people on his prep team, including 2 retired military figures with no political background. You want amateur hour? A lot of you Trumplicans, you wanted an outsider. You wanted amateur hour. This is what it looks like. And they blamed the lack of time spent on preparing a game plan in the first place because Donald Trump didn't think he needed one, and he just prefers to wing it, and this is what you get. He wasn't willing to spend any time, and he got what he paid for, in essence. Now, Trump overstuffs his schedule because he needs the open worship of his glassy-eyed sycophants. He needs constant reminders of his greatness, or he wilts. One of the most singularly insecure human beings on the planet. Everything else is the flotsam and jetsam of a political life in which he has no real interest, other than how he can elevate himself personally through it. In other words, he wants all the fun and he doesn't want any of the work, which pretty much describes his entire adult life. During Monday night's debate, Trump missed opportunities to bring up Mrs. Clinton's email scandal, which is just jaw-droppingly astonishing. I mean, it could easily have been wedged into the discussion about cybersecurity. Her failure in Benghazi never mentioned Benghazi once. How is that possible? And a host of issues. Remember? Immigration, border control, Trump wall, never brought any of those things up whatsoever. A host of issues that a more seasoned political pro, like anybody else in the Republican field, could have hammered home to the utter devastation of Hillary Clinton. But Trump's loyalists didn't want a politician. They wanted an arrogant, elitist amateur with no experience and no ability to discuss issues, and that's what they got. This is what it looks like in practice, Trumplicans. Having some buyer's remorse in the privacy of your own, I was going to say thoughts, but you get the point. Some of the advisors want to practice getting under his skin, as Mrs. Clinton did, to gauge his response. Yeah, but he'd probably fire them if they tried that. Not surprisingly, they offered no details about doing so. In other words, they're all afraid to do it. Others wanted practice sessions built around the next debate's format, a town hall-style meeting, where Mrs. Clinton is likely to engage with undecided voters, asking him questions and at times move from his chair to walk the stage. Oh, I can just see him pulling Al Gore's stunt about walking over toward the other side of the stage to loom over Mrs. Clinton intimidatingly. I can just see him doing that. Trump has little experience with the format, which can be challenging for people who do not practice managing their body language and movements. In other words, it'll be a miracle if Trump doesn't wind up mooning the audience. Several advisors also want to impress upon him the need to stick to a strategy and a plan of battle against a female candidate. But Trump doesn't stick to any strategy or plan. He wings it. Remember, nobody controls Trump. Bet you wish you had somebody controlling him now, don't you, Trumplicans? The kind of opponent he has less experience facing, a female candidate. Well, he's never faced anybody before, so that's... Rather than spend time polishing a string of disparate zingers, Mrs. Clinton, a skilled debater, was able to easily parry Monday night. I mean, Trump thought he could wing it, and his unparalleled wit and wisdom would just dazzle and devastate Hillary Clinton. It didn't turn out that way, did it? What is that expression about no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy? This is true. I mean, I believed from the beginning that the Clinton strategy would be to bait him, remain calm, and let Trump implode on stage. And this is exactly what happened. He has an ego, and that is his weakness. And it's a bigger weakness than anybody who has ever been in the White House, with the possible exception of Barack Obama. And it would be his biggest weakness for the ensuing 4 years if he won. And that would bring the country into dire peril. That's why Trump is dangerous. Going into Monday, advisors encouraged him to have mock debates so that he'd have a feel for what was to come, but having no patience for it, in other words, he's a lazy SOB, he rejected the idea. He could just wing it. I mean, after all, didn't it work in the primaries when the media was running interference for him? And he wasn't facing one candidate one-on-one. And as soon as it came down to one candidate, Ted Cruz, he didn't debate again, did he? What happened Monday night is that Trump got pantsed. He got exposed. And the two more debates, that's two more chances to be exposed and pantsed again. Trump's idea of preparation was speaking with his advisors, in other words, getting his ass kissed, quite a few of whom have no political experience, amateur hour, and getting his ego boost from rallies. There were early efforts to run a more standard form of general election debate prep camp, led by Roger Ailes, the ousted Fox, or rather Trump news chief, at Trump's golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey. But Trump found it hard to focus during those meetings. Yeah, I imagine. I mean, ADHD, thy name is Donald Trump. According to multiple people briefed on the process, who requested an anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. That left Ailes, who at the time was deeply distracted by his removal from Trump News and the news media reports surrounding it, discussing his own problems as well as recounting political war stories, according to two people present for the sessions. Rudolph Rudy Giuliani, the former New York City mayor and a friend of Trump's who has been traveling with him extensively, took over much of the preparation efforts by the end. But with Trump receiving so much conflicting advice in those sessions, he absorbed little of it, largely because he wasn't paying attention. He was on Twitter. He was prepped on, he was supposed to have been prepped on things to look for with Mrs. Clinton, such as phrases she favors and things she would likely bring up, but he couldn't translate any of that into a lasting positive debate performance because he didn't know any of it, and even if he had, he wouldn't have been able to maintain focus long enough to keep from lapsing back into being himself. It clearly looked like he ran out of gas after 30 minutes, and that came through loud and clear, said Scott Reed, the senior political strategist for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, who has not supported Trump. Trump needs to show a higher level of seriousness, of which he's not capable, so that he's better positioned as an agent of change, which he would not be. If he can accomplish that, which he can't, he'll win undecided voters and late-breaking voters who clearly don't want to support Hillary Clinton, which he won't. What Trump would need to do is show a higher level of seriousness, but he won't because he's not a serious candidate. He's a reality TV star with aspirations that are higher than doing another season of The Apprentice. He's delegated all the real work and done little but serve as the public face of a brand for decades. Now he's in a position where he sinks or swims on his own work ethic, which is functionally non-existent, and he is floundering and will continue to flounder all the way through November 8th. And trust me, folks, shed no tears for this man, because after November 8th, as he said himself, he's going back to a pretty good life. But what about the rest of us? And what he will be consigning us to either way?